In today's video, I'm going to be discussing orientation and mobility training and my experience from my first 2 sessions. All right, come with me and let's go talk about it.
Reach for the stars, 'cause we're aiming high.
Hey everyone, this is Matt. Welcome back to another Blind to Billionaire video. So in today's video, like I mentioned in the intro, I'm going to be discussing orientation and mobility training as well as my experience from my first 2 sessions. Now I know this video probably isn't the most valuable, but you know what? I've had a lot of you reach out to me and ask me how the training was going and also asking me to give you my perspective from my first couple sessions. So I said, you know what? I will create a video about it and just kind of walk you through the experience that I had last week. So last week I had my first 2 sessions, Thursday and Friday. Now the first session was just here at home. We didn't do a whole lot. Well, we didn't do anything out in public, first of all. We just stayed here at the house. I would say for the first half hour or so, we talked, got to know about each other a little bit. He asked me quite a few questions. And then we actually spent a majority or quite a bit of time talking about sighted guide techniques, like proper sighted guide techniques. So he taught me quite a bit about that. And initially I thought, well, you know, I don't really care about this. I want to learn how to use the cane. But then I quickly realized how important learning proper sighted guide technique actually is because I'll get to it later on, but on Friday we used it a lot. So it was actually really beneficial to learn those skills on Thursday. And actually what was really nice too is about an hour and a half or so into the session, it was a 2-hour session, Corey actually arrived home. And then, so not only could I practice with the trainer, but then Corey was there too, and he had the 2 of us practice proper sighted guide techniques. So we did some walking around the house. We did stairs, up and down stairs. We went through doorways. He showed us how to properly announce going through doorways, or what did he call it? Narrow spaces. So we did a lot of that and we found it to be really helpful. And Corey and I actually, after he left, we continued practicing a little bit more on our own. So overall, Thursday, the first session was pretty simple. We didn't, really do anything extreme, just the real basics. Like I said, sighted guide techniques, and then he also taught me a couple other techniques of how I can find something. If I drop it on the floor, he taught me a couple different techniques of how I can possibly find those items, which I can actually get into further in a couple other videos in the future. I can actually just have maybe a video talking about these techniques that he taught me, but I actually found it to be pretty helpful. And I thought, this is something that I've never really implemented, but it was actually really helpful, even though it was very basic, these techniques. All right, so let's get into Friday, the juicy stuff. Okay, now Friday was a completely different story. I had a second session with him, and again, it was about a 2-hour session. And the first day, when we first met, I said, here's how I'd like to progress. And of course, he's the professional, I'm not. So I just assumed and just thought like, okay, this guy's going to, do what's best for me and teach me, whatever's best. So during our first session on Thursday, I said, ideally I'd like to progress by learning my immediate area, like learning my neighborhood, learning how to walk, just around sidewalks, crossing streets properly, how to navigate my neighborhood. From there, I'd like to progress into going to some of my local stores that I visit relatively often, like a Target, the grocery store, maybe the gym, things like that. And then from there, I said, let's progress into a shopping mall. Like, let's go to a shopping mall and figure out how to walk around, like a bigger space with a lot more people and a lot more stores. Well, it didn't actually go that way. So day 2, Friday, so he arrives and I was like, all right, what's going on today? And he's like, well, we're going to the mall. And I was just like, the mall? Seriously? I was like, whatever, let's do it. And I'm just like shaking in my boots because that's not what I wanted to do. But I thought, okay, maybe this guy has like a secret little hidden place in the mall where we can go where no one's around, because I'm terrified. Honestly, I'm terrified of this whole thing. So we get in his car, we drive, go to the mall, and we get out of his car and he said, all right, let's do some sighted guide and I'll help you to the door. So we get out of the car, we walk, and we get near the building, and all of a sudden he snaps his fingers and he said, look, I'll get into this in a little while too, but echolocation. So he snaps his fingers and said, okay, look, the door's in front of us. And he's like, all right, go find the door. And I was thinking, like, seriously, I don't even know how to use the cane yet. Like, I barely know how to properly hold it. On Thursday, he showed me how to properly hold it and like the placement of the cane. I should hold it, palm up, in line with like the center line of my body, just above my belt buckle area. And so basically I knew how to do that, but I didn't know any like tapping or sweeping techniques, anything like that. So I just thought, I was just like, what the heck? I don't even know how to use this thing. Like, I don't know how to find the door, but I thought, whatever, that's why I'm here. So I'll just do what I can and then I'll get there. So anyway, I just whipped out the cane and just like kind of walked toward the door, and I found the door. And then I used one of his techniques where I don't know what he calls it, but you take the cane and you hold it vertically. You hold the cane vertically and kind of slide it along the door to find the handle. And this is a question that I asked him, like, why wouldn't I just reach out with my hand and feel for the handle? And he said, well, it's really unpopular and it looks really, like, it doesn't look professional if he called it groping, which, I guess that would be a proper word for it. But he said it's not like the most best looking thing if you're like feeling around everywhere, but if you actually use a cane to feel everything, he said it looks a lot better. So that's what he taught me, is to use the cane, slide it along the door vertically to find the handle. So that's what I did, opened up the door, walked through, and then did the same thing for the second set of doors. So then from there, we used Sighted Guide to get further deeper into the mall, where he found just a long stretch of wall, and from there he was teaching me basically just the rhythm of walking and tapping on the opposite. For example, right foot down and left side tap. So, I mean, all of you that use a cane know what this is. But so that's what he taught me, is that rhythm. And I would say that took a little while. It took a few times back and forth to get that rhythm down. And basically what he was doing is he was having me walk along the wall, and every time my right foot would touch down, I would basically hit the wall. I mean, not like whack the wall with the cane, but just tap the wall down near the floor. And so we did that for a little while, and then we went, back and forth, and then just right across like the little hallway area was an escalator. So we did the same thing on like the glass wall, and it was actually kind of loud, and people were going up and down the escalator, and I was just like embarrassed as a person could possibly ever be in the whole world. But the nice thing about it is I couldn't see anybody. I could hear people around me talking, passing through, walking by. But the nice thing is about being visually impaired to the extent that I am, I could not see anybody around me actually standing around observing or like staring at me. So that really helped out a lot, because I was really uncomfortable. And if I would have been able to see people watching me, it would have been a really bad situation. So anyway, we continued on from there, and then we went to a different area, and he was teaching me a little bit of echolocation. So apparently this guy is like really good at echolocation, and I am, brand new to it. I've used it in my life. I never knew that I was doing it. It's just something that I've done as my vision has progressively gotten worse over the years. I've used echolocation, but didn't really know what I was doing. But we went to a different location of the mall, and basically what he had me do was walk directly at a brick wall. Well, it wasn't brick, it was like a concrete wall. It was a hard wall of some kind. He had me walk directly at it. And as I was doing that, he was having me using the tapping techniques with the cane, and he was seeing how long it would take me to pick up the wall directly in front of me before I would actually collide with it. Or not actually collide with it, but, hit it with the cane. And at first I would get literally like a half a step away from the wall before I would notice that it was something there. But then after I did it maybe 5, 6, 7 times, I realized I was out about 3 steps from the wall before I could actually pick it up with echolocation. So that really improved a lot, and that was really interesting too, but definitely needs a lot more improvement. My skills of echolocation and just recognizing that there's something next to me. Or approaching me from the front. So then after that, what was really interesting too is he had me trailing a wall. And I thought this was pretty interesting. I thought I actually did pretty good right from the very start. What he did is he had me walk very similar to the very first exercise he had me do, but in this case, he had me trail the wall. So rather than walking and tapping my cane on the wall as I walked, he had me just trail right next to the wall, but not actually touch the wall. And the way that I was doing that was, again, using echolocation to determine like, hey, the wall is really close to me. It's near me, but I'm not going to touch it in any way, whether it's with my arm, my body, my my cane or anything like that, but yet trail right next to the wall. And there was actually a slight like jaunt out in the wall. And then as I walked, I had to like veer around that. So the first few times I didn't actually catch that little area that came out, but then afterward, after doing it a few times, I was able to catch that and then kind of walk around it using echolocation. So it was actually a pretty cool skill. That was probably my favorite part. Probably mostly because we were back like in this tucked away corner in the mall. There were only a few people around and it wasn't really a big deal, but I would say that first part where we were right by the escalator was terrifying for me. But the trailing technique was pretty interesting. I thought that was pretty cool. From there, we walked on to a different area, again, using sighted guide, the techniques that he taught me. And we went into kind of like the center of the mall. They have some sitting areas. They have a bunch of tables and chairs, a couple of sofas sitting around in, like square shapes around. And basically we stood off to the side and he said, okay, what I want you to do is there's a seating area in front of you. I want you to walk forward into the seating area and go to the far chair on the left. And he's like, all right, go. And I was like, well, just wait. I'm not ready yet. And so from there I was like, well, how do I know that there's nobody in there? Like, what do I say to people if someone's sitting in there? And he's like, you're good. That's all he told me. And I was like, okay, I guess I can just gather out of him saying you're good that maybe there's no one there. So I just went for it. Excuse me. And luckily, there was nobody in there. So I made my way into the seating area and kind of felt my way around the furniture with the cane again, and then found the second chair. So again, I got out of the area. He found another seating area, and he's like, all right, I want you to go in and find the second chair on the right. And I was like, well, what if there's people there? And he's like, they'll move, or he didn't say they'll move. He said something like, they're fine, don't worry about it. Everything's fine. And I thought, oh gosh, and I could hear voices around, so I thought maybe there's people sitting there. And at that point I was just thinking this is so embarrassing. I don't know what I'm doing with the cane. I'm really not confident at all with the use of it. And if I hit somebody with it, I'm just gonna feel really bad because I don't know what I'm doing. I can't see anything. I don't know where I'm going. And I thought, this is just awful. So I thought, okay, just, whatever, I'll go for it. So I started making my way into this seating area, and I'm feeling around that I thought was a chair or couch, and it happened to be a person. I don't know if it was him or if it was somebody else, but all of a sudden there was a voice and it said, oh, are you looking for a chair? And I just started laughing and I said, I am actually. And he said, oh, okay, there's one right here next to me. So I couldn't recognize the voice enough to distinguish if it was a different person or if it was my trainer that quick snuck into the seating area and sat down just to mess with me a little bit. But I did not like that. That was a really uncomfortable situation for me. From there, and then we went into another little kind of deserted area of the mall, and it was kind of a U-shape area. And basically what he had me do is use the trailing technique to walk and just trail the walls all around to make a big U, following the walls around. And then once I got to the other side of the U, turn around, come back, and end up where I first started, using just the trailing technique of not actually touching the wall, but tapping along using echolocation to walk parallel to the wall, but not actually touching it. So from there, we walked on, and he taught me some stairs, how to properly go up and down stairs. And, that was relatively easy. Basically just taking the cane and kind of 2 steps ahead of me, kind of flicking it on each step, making sure that it's a step, making sure that it's not curving and that it's straight. And then going up and basically just using the cane once again, 2 steps ahead of me, just kind of tapping it up. And I would say overall that was pretty easy. So now, that was a really quick synopsis of the cane training and how it went. But I just want to get into how did I feel throughout this process? Now, I've been expressing to you for the last, year and a half since I started this channel that I've been incredibly nervous to start this cane training process, orientation and mobility training. And I have to say, day number 1 here at home was fine. No big deal at all. If we would have started out in the neighborhood, again, I would have been a little bit nervous, but it wouldn't have been a huge deal at all. Not a big deal. But I have to say, going to the mall on day 2, not knowing anything, and literally having an audience of who knows how many people, the mall was pretty busy. But having that audience there, I was absolutely terrified. I mean, it was the most traumatizing experience that I've had to encounter in probably the last like 10 or 15 years of my life. It was the most uncomfortable experience I've dealt with in a very, very long time. I came home and Corey was home and she's like, "How was it?" And I said, "It was like the worst experience I've ever had." It was so awful, to be completely honest with you. It was so bad. And I feel like I learned a lot of skills, but it was the fact that I was out in public and I felt like I was just walking around like a big clown, not having any clue of what I was doing. And this is just me being more of like the introvert type person where I don't like people watching me do anything. I really don't. I don't like people watching me at all. I'm not the type of person to go out in public and like make a huge scene. When Corey and I are recording YouTube videos out in public, I don't like people to be around like listening to me talk, or I don't care if people watch me talk as long as it's from a distance so far that they can't hear me. And so I think that's just more of a personality aspect of just how I am. But I'd be interested to hear, how was your first experience with orientation and mobility training, like the first couple sessions? I'm curious if everybody feels the way that I felt after this first one, or if I'm just being really extreme. And, you know, I've actually expressed this in videos in the past too, where I've also said, like, I feel like going out in public like this is just going to be a huge, how can I say this? I don't want to say like huge hit to my ego, because it makes it sound like, oh, my ego's like huge or whatever, but it's like, I don't know how else to describe it, but I just feel like it was the most humiliating experience I've ever had. And again, I know it's going to get a lot better because everything does. And Corey said, after I got home that day on Friday, she said, "Do you think you're going to do this again, or do you think you're done with this?" And I said, "No, I actually have a couple of appointments scheduled for next week." So I'm going to continue forward with this, and I truly believe it's going to be just like everything else. When you first take on something new, it's tough. Like, it's incredibly difficult. It's hard. You just want to quit. You don't want to continue on. But from my experience, just like with everything else, just like this YouTube video, I'm not this YouTube video, but this YouTube channel, it's been really tough at times. And there have been times where I've said, you know, I kind of just want to be done. But then I just think, nope, I'm continuing to push on. I'm going to keep going. And then things get a lot better. So I'm anticipating that's what's going to happen with orientation and mobility training, that over time, it's just going to get a lot better. I hope, because if it's like it was on Friday, oh, it's going to be tough, guys. But anyway, I'd really love to hear about your experience. Like, is this how it was for you the first time that you met with your trainer, the first few times, I should say? Or am I just being really dramatic and really extreme about this whole thing? So anyway, let me have it. Like, seriously, tell me exactly how your experience was. Let me know if I'm being way too dramatic about this whole thing. But I really hope that the coming sessions here are going to get a lot better, and that my skills will definitely improve more. But I do have to say, the trainer he did say that I did pretty well, even though I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. He said, you know, you did great today. Like, you did a really good job. And he said that I actually advanced relatively quickly compared to like the majority of people that he works with. So that was encouraging too. So anyway, I think that's about it for now. I think that's about all you probably want to hear about my experience. But anyway, I do have a couple more sessions planned this week, and I'm looking forward to it. But at the same time, I'm a little bit nervous after, you know, what happened on Friday. But anyway, hey, let's get into the shout out for today. So today's shout out is going to go to Scott, a great friend here on the channel. And his channel name is Scott Blind, but yes, I saw that. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Scott Blind, but yes, I saw that. It's a relatively new channel. He's been a great friend. He's been here for quite a while. We've communicated back and forth, not only through the comments, but through the emails quite a bit too, and he's just been a great friend. And actually, he gave me a little cane lesson through email a couple weeks ago, which I implemented. A few weeks ago, Corey and I went out for a walk, and I used what he taught me, and actually, he was spot on, everything that he told me, and I actually continued using that with the trainer the other day. So anyway, I really appreciate you watching this. I realized this video wasn't like the most valuable video in the world, but hey, a lot of you have been asking me to share my experience with orientation and mobility training, after I've had my first couple sessions. So here it is. I'll give you another update at some point in the future. But thanks again for watching this. If you have any comments or questions, I would love to hear from you. Otherwise, if you're new here, I'd really enjoy it if you subscribe as well. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again on Thursday. Thanks, everybody. Have a nice day. See you soon.
You can't wait to see